What's going on, y'all? Sean, Back to Basics Fitness here. It's been a while since I've done a live, and I saw some news this morning that was talking about how the government is in the process of making some moves, working with some pharmaceutical companies that manufacture some of the very popular weight loss drugs of this day and age, to make them a lot more accessible financially for people who use Medicare. So like very, very significant cost cuts. Like what I'm looking at in this article, which I try to make sure that I share this. You're talking about reducing the cost from $1,000 a month, 1350 a month to $350 a month. Uh and then apparently some of these companies are coming out with pill versions because these weight loss drugs are injectables. You inject yourself once a month. But whenever the pill version comes out, apparently that might be $150 per month. And so, there's I think a thought here that this is going to be like really, really significant for weight loss in the United States. That this obesity epidemic, where we have, well, I say people who are overweight and obese in the United States, that percentage is somewhere around three-fourths of all Americans. And so, is this going to actually be the thing that pushes us back in the right direction? you know, in regard to obesity and being overweight in general? Is this going to slash obesity? Is it going to slash high blood pressure? Is it going to slash diabetes? All of this kind of stuff. Now, I wanted to talk about this because, obviously weight loss, as one who is a personal trainer, one who talks about health and wellness, wholeness, fitness, this is something that I keep up with the news on this, at least loosely. And I do want to talk about why I believe that even with the prices being cut for these popular weight loss drugs, I don't believe it's going to be a very significant effect um, you know, on obesity rates and overweight rates in our society. So think about this. So I think most people do know this, but the weight loss drugs that are being used now, a lot of them are really diabetes drugs that have been repurposed. Okay. And I say that to say that diabetes rates have not slowed. Okay. Diabetes rates have not slowed in this society. Matter of fact, they've just continued to increase in the United States. So, um, and drugs have been developed for diabetes over a number of years. And it's only recently that some of those have been repurposed for weight loss because of that secondary effect of weight loss. The point I'm making is the availability of medication isn't going to slow the rate of obesity. And so you may say, well, yeah, it may not do that, but if somebody becomes obese or if somebody becomes overweight, then they can use this drug. Now they can use it more accessibly, because it's not going to break their bank and lose the weight. But what I want to say to that is, I'll say it this way. So I garden, and I was out there the other day setting up a new garden bed, and I was looking at one of my other garden beds that really, really needs to be weeded. It was neglected, and there are a lot of weeds in there that you can just kind of like pinch out, with your two fingers and pluck out. But a lot of those weeds are tough. They're woody. They have very deep roots. If you just try to pull it, like any other small weed, then it'll probably snap off at the ground with the roots still intact, and it'll grow back again because those are really tough to get out. Now, Um, weight loss drugs, apparently they are effective, but like I often talk about, the weight loss drugs are not going to deal with the issue at the root of the problem. Okay. And so what happens is all a weight loss drug will amount to. I'm not saying that they don't help to do the job, but this is why they are taking. You're supposed to take them for the rest of your life because they're not going to solve the issue. Now you know what's going to happen is there's going to be a monthly bill, and you'll get the weight off to some degree. But then there may also be side effects, some of which can be pretty significant. You know, like a lot of nausea and other issues. And people have talked about the certain kind of look, the gaunt look that people have who take it. So I don't know all the ins and outs of that, but my point is it's not solving the issue. What is the root of obesity? What is the root of being overweight? The root of it all, especially if you consider us in our society, I believe the root of obesity is from two main things. It's how we eat and then our lack of movement in that order. How we eat specifically, just all the ultra processed food that we have. And so like just again, these these uh these drugs being cheaper, you know, it could result in some good weight loss for people, but at the same time though, the root of the issue is ultra processed food. You know, at least in most cases, which um ultra processed food helping to contribute to obesity is not the only issue with ultra processed food anyway. Ultra processed food is very unhealthy. Like the things that it does to your blood sugar, the things that it does to your hormones, the lack of nutrients, and so on and so forth. That's what really concerns me about certain drugs being made more available because the root cause is not being dealt with, and there's a whole heap of other issues caused by all this ultra processed food that we eat. I was even thinking about this the other day. So my grandparents on my mom's side, both of them lived to be pretty old, 90s, and you know their health was decent. They were on a lot of prescription drugs, you know, um, or a few prescription drugs by the time that they passed, but um, but they didn't eat nearly the amount of fast food that we ate. Matter of fact, my mom says growing up that them going to get something to eat from a fast food restaurant was like extremely rare. I mean, maybe not even once a month. It was very infrequent. Whereas in this day and age, we might do fast food a few times a week. And so we're kind of desensitized to how unhealthy fast food and other ultra processed food can be because we're just used to it, you know. Anytime you get used to something, you kind of get desensitized to it. But the stuff is unhealthy. There's no bones about that. It's unhealthy stuff. And so, like I say, ultra processed food in particular is one of the main reasons that we deal with obesity and overweight in our society because these foods are so addictive. They're so addictive and they have such a remarkable impact on your body chemistry. They make your body almost like a fat gaining machine, not to mention all the other negative health effects. Another thing as it pertains to food is our ideas of how frequently to eat. We eat so often. You know, I remember growing up when I was trying to gain muscle and stuff like that. You know, people would talk about eating 5, 6, 7 times a day, eating big meals, eating snacks in between. And now I'm just not convinced that the digestive system is at its best when it's constantly digesting food. I'm just not convinced of that anymore. And so again, a drug is not going to help with that. It's not going to help you to adjust in ways that make your because here's the deal. Well, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. Let me stop there. And then the other aspect, like I say, is the whole the activity side of things. Because again, considering where we are in 2025 in terms of how much we move our bodies versus 100 years ago, 1925. We don't move nearly as much. Not nearly as much. We all have at least one, almost all of us have at least one car. Our jobs are like you have to drive to get to them because they're far away. And a lot of these different kind of things, such that, um, you know, we just don't move a lot. And so these things do make it seem a little bit more attractive to, like, get weight loss drugs and whatnot. If you decide to do that, I'm not shaming you, nothing. All I'm saying is if you really, really want to deal with excess weight, then you got to deal with the root issue. And dealing with the root issue by kind of taking something, you will probably experience some temporary results. But if you really want to deal with it once and for all, like where to the point where you can eat what you want to eat, so to speak, and not worry about weight gain, you have to deal with the stuff at the root. And the root, like I say, it has to do with the diet and the exercise. But I'll say I'll dial it in even more. It is cravings and convenience. So if you can get your cravings in check, then that will have a huge impact on how you maintain your weight. I promise you that. Because really think about it, examine your life and just think about, especially if you're struggling to lose weight, you may even be consistent with working out. But especially if you're struggling to lose weight right now, examine your life and see some of the things that you like that maybe you might need to let go of, drinks, sweets, pastries, whatever it is. If you were to get those cravings in control to the point where you didn't eat that stuff much at all, what would your weight look like? Possibly. Possibly. I'm just saying, just food for thought. The other thing is convenience. If we can kind of wean ourselves off of the need for as much convenience as we have, then I promise that'll have a big effect on health. Because you got to really think about it. We're so convenient that we just don't move that much anymore. And the more convenient space we get, the less we move. So it means sacrifices. I put quotes around sacrifices because it's sacrifices just because it's giving up things that make us feel comfortable. But at the same time, we're comfortable with certain conveniences because we just kind of grown accustomed to them. So anyway, I'm just gonna put a pause right there. These drugs might be more accessible to more people as a result of whatever the government is doing. But at the same time, my thought is, let's remember if we really want lasting effects with weight loss, you got to deal with stuff at the root. And like I say, to really condense it down, you have cravings to deal with, you have the desire for convenience to deal with. If you can wean yourself from needing the foods you crave, the unhealthy foods you crave, where you can eat them, you might can eat them like once a quarter and you're good, if that. Or, if you can kind of wean yourself from needing to be like convenient and stuff like that, that will be huge. And you will have dealt with what I believe is the root of overweight and obesity. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. I'll link to the story I found about these weight loss drugs so you can read it yourself. But anyway, that's all I got for today. I hope y'all have a great weekend. And if you're not subscribed, make sure you like and subscribe. Take care.